Okay, looks like we had a connection timeout. I'm now over here, so I will say this, that I am now here. So hopefully somebody is watching or knows that I'm here. I don't know if you do. I have restarted the stream. Hopefully we won't have any more connection problems, but who knows. Um, let me see if I can point you guys over here. I don't know if I can link to this. Let's see here. See if I can tell everybody on the other stream. Oh. Mm. Is it already posted up on here? I don't even know. Well, anyway, this is where I am now. Yeah, so I will continue. Hopefully somebody is watching. I don't know. Facebook streaming, Facebook Live is always troublesome for me, it seems like. I don't know why my connection doesn't work on it very well. Yep. I don't know if there's a link to the other one, but maybe you can link other people over here to this one, because I couldn't restart the stream. It just told me it was over, and then that was it. So I will wait just a moment to see if people come over. Sorry, guys. I don't know what happened. Hopefully it'll be okay now. Okay, here's people back, it seems like. Okay, hi again. Sorry about the drop. I don't know why. Suddenly the connection just went bad. So let me go back into the slides and try to get on with the orthography section if we can. So talking about orthography, different systems that are available out there that have been used. So we're going to talk about three main types of orthography: the logographic systems, the syllabaries, and the alphabet. So starting with the logographic system, this is a system that is used, for example, in Chinese languages. The idea behind it is that it has one symbol per morpheme or per unit of meaning. It's not directly representative of sound. It's not phonetically determined. So because of this, an advantage that it has is that it can be used across dialects and languages to represent the same words. So even if your dialect or language has a slightly or very different pronunciation even of the same word, you can still read it even if it was written by someone who doesn't speak your dialect, because it's not based on the sounds. It's based on the concepts behind them, behind the words. So here you can see that even if I don't know how to pronounce these words in any given Chinese language, I still, if I know this, if I'm familiar with this character, I can still understand the concept behind it, right? You theoretically could just use these to write any language that you wanted, but there is a disadvantage in that it takes a long time to learn every character. So typically to read basic material in Chinese, you typically have to know like 3,000 symbols first. So it does take a long time to learn. So that's one issue with it. But you do get that ability to read across dialects and languages to some extent. A syllabary is a language or is a writing system that uses one symbol per syllable. And it's used in languages like Japanese, in hiragana and katakana. It's also used for the Cherokee language, for example. This is a good system to use if your language has a simple syllable structure. So if it's just like consonant, vowel, that's a pretty good candidate for a syllabary. Now, if you were to try to make a syllabary for English, you'd run into a lot of struggles because English has like many, many, many different possible syllables. So you'd have to make a lot of symbols, and that would be a big pain. So if your language has complex syllables, it's going to be harder to use a syllabary for it. Not impossible, but just a lot harder. But if you do have simple syllable structure, you might consider having a syllabary. Example of syllabary is here. This is the Cherokee writing system. This was developed by Sequoyah, the Cherokee polymath, and he started to develop in 1809, and actually after it was officially adopted in 1825, within 5 years of that time, the Cherokee population's literacy rate surpassed the general literacy rate for the U.S. at that time, after they had adopted this syllabary. So this one worked obviously very well for Cherokee. And here is Sequoyah's name in the syllabary itself. So as you can see, every syllable is represented by a single symbol. So there is a symbol to syllable correlation here. Another system is the alphabet. The basic idea behind the alphabet is one symbol per phoneme. There are obviously exceptions to this rule, as we've seen in English quite frequently. There are things called digraphs, where you have two letters that represent one sound, like the TH, or SH, or PH, or like AY, for example. This is a really common form of orthography that is used in many different languages all over the world. A lot of alphabets have been used for a lot of languages at once. So like you have the Latin alphabet, which is used to write English and French and many different languages across the world. One example here is the Greek alphabet. As you can see, some alphabets have a difference between uppercase and lowercase, like in Greek and Cyrillic and Latin, etc. You have a difference between majuscule and minuscule, or uppercase, lowercase, but that's not the case for all alphabets. So if you're looking to do orthography development, if your language doesn't have a standardized orthography, you can always develop one. Typically, the best writing systems are those that are easily accessible, learnable, and popular with a speaking population. It's a really good idea to think about practical matters of implementing a new writing system. Thinking about questions such as, how easy is it to learn for speakers? Can it be easily typed? Is it compatible with technology that people are using? Can you text with it on phones? Is it easier to use in a particular operating system, like computer or another? What makes it easier or harder? It's best to involve actual language users to see what is going to actually work from a practical standpoint in a community of speakers. If you're using an alphabet, it's a good idea to stick to a one-to-one correspondence between the phoneme and the letter, just to start out with, so that you don't run into too many unnecessary complications. But you can add digraphs and diacritics to your letters, like accent marks and things, as needed. There are a lot of options that you have when you're developing an orthography using an alphabet. For example, say you wanted to represent some phonemes and other phonological info using the Latin alphabet for a language that maybe doesn't have an orthography. For example, if you happen to have long vowels in your language, that is, vowels that last longer in duration, like ah instead of ah, how are you going to represent these? Here it is in the IPA. We use this thing that looks sort of like a colon next to it. There are several choices that you could have as to how you would represent that. Some languages like Maori or Hawaiian have the long macron over top of it. You could represent it by two vowels. You could have a different diacritic. You could add another letter and have a digraph like this to represent a long vowel. So there are options, and it depends on a lot of factors which one you would want to choose. Say your language has a lateral fricative like sla, This is a sound found in the Yupik language, in Welsh, other languages too. How are you going to represent this symbol using the Latin alphabet? There is not a common symbol in use because English doesn't have this. Not a whole lot of languages have this. Latin certainly didn't have this sound, so there is no individual letter that you can look to. You can choose to do a digraph, a sequence of 2 letters. You can have something like a barred L, which is used by some languages in North America that have this sound, shl. So there are choices when you are developing an orthography. If you're using another writing system, if you're modifying the Latin alphabet, for example, to work for your language, you have to make decisions about things like this. And usually whatever works best for the speaker population, for the community in question, whatever is most practical, is often going to be a better answer. So it's important to consider whether speakers are already familiar with certain writing systems in other languages, like if they already are familiar with a language that has, for example, I don't know, a barred L, and that's something that they're used to seeing in another language. That might be a practical choice for this language because maybe everybody already kind of has that in the back of their head. But whatever the situation, which can vary greatly depending on the speaker community, it's always best to have community involvement from the speakers so that you develop something that is actually usable, accessible, something that people actually like and want to use and can use in the modes of communication that they do every day, such as writing, texting, typing, etc. There are often a lot of social and political issues that can arise in orthography development. Things like differences in dialects may present a challenge. Will your orthography be usable for all dialects of a language? Which ones will it be usable for and why? These are all questions, and the answers to these questions depend on the situation and can vary widely. So would having different systems in use for different dialects be confusing, for example? Is one of your goals to be consistent and have a system that works for all of the speakers of different dialects? So these are just some examples of possible questions to ask when you're starting to develop an orthography. So if any of you has worked in writing system development or orthography development, think about some of the questions or challenges that you might have encountered in thinking about writing down a particular language. Is there anything that was difficult about the process? Was there disagreements in communities or between individuals about how to write the language, how to spell it? And if so, what did you do? Was there ever a conclusion about it? It can be an extremely complicated situation depending on lots of factors. So orthography development can be a great thing to do, but it can also be really complex and challenging depending on your situation. So that's all I've got to say today on orthography. So I will end it here and say thank you to everybody for watching. And if you have any questions or comments, I'll be looking at the chat, so please let me know. And the slides as well as the audio and video components should be accessible on this Facebook page after this. So thank you everybody for watching, and I'll talk to you later.